Hi, and welcome to the Langley Connection. This is the show where health meets community, brought to you by Langley Health Services. We'll be sharing helpful tips, expert insights, and stories that matter to you and your family. Thanks for listening. We're excited to connect with you. Welcome to today's episode. Joining us, we have our provider from the Lecanto office, Taylor Wilson. So thank you, Taylor, for joining us.
Absolutely. Love being here.
So start a little bit about telling us your background. So you're at our Lecanto office, a provider. How long have you been a provider, and then how long have you been at Langley Health Services?
So I started in the field of medicine as a combat medic with the Army, and that I joined up at the age of 17.
Okay.
Worked with them for 6 years, got out, went into PA school, and now I've been a provider for a little over 6 years, and all of that time has been with Langley Health Services.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your service. And, we were talking a little bit about this, kind of some of the races you were doing.
Yeah.
I think it's really neat. So we talked a little bit about that and talking about skydiving. We'll go a little bit into that too. But tell us, some of the races you've done. You've done like a Savage race and just kind of, so tell us how you got into those and enjoyment of those.
Sure thing. So for me, they're just a great way of being able to challenge myself every year. I love being physically active. I love being able to prove to myself that I can do challenging things, and so that's something that's always been kind of a part of me. And so those give me a great opportunity to be able to do that every year. They're just a lot of fun to you get out, and not only is it you're just doing a workout, but you get to incorporate a lot of different movements that maybe you wouldn't normally get to do, and some maybe challenge a few fears that you might have. Absolutely. And it just kind of a fun opportunity to do it every year.
Absolutely. So I know when I've done the races in the past, it's rewarding when you cross that finish line, and I've done it, and I've made it here when you think you can't do it, and you're halfway through the race and think you can't do it. At the beginning of the race you think, and then you end up accomplishing it. So I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
So what would you say the most challenging part is preparing for those races?
For me, I was mentioning to this before the show got started, is that I don't enjoy long running. If running is just long distances is just boring for me. I was always a kind of a sprinter. I would run short distances. That's great. Long distances is it's a drag for me. So for me, the most challenging part is just forcing myself to say, okay, I'm doing a 10K race. I can't just train 1 mile. I have to go and get after it and get at least those 6.2 miles in there, so that I know that I can finish the race and not be completely gassed at the end of it. So for me, that's probably the most challenging part of it. The grip strength training and the strength training that comes with it, I love that part of it. So that part's that's not hard for me to incorporate into my awareness, but it's just the drag of making myself go out and do those long endurance exercises. That is, I
think that comes with discipline, just having to do it and just kind of setting your mind that you're going to do it and just kind of trying to accomplish it that way.
Yep, absolutely.
So we talked a lot about exercise and movement, and that's one of the big things I want to kind of talk about on this episode is making being active. I think it's good for your physical health, but also your mental health as well. So
absolutely.
As an adult who's not as active and that wants to become more active, what would you recommend them to get started, and how much should they start doing, and how much should they be doing every day?
That's a great question. I would actually say I would start with the number one thing, because with a lot of this, if you just don't understand how amazing and how beneficial exercise can be, it's uncomfortable to do.
Yeah.
And so if we don't understand just how much benefit you can get from exercise and what it's going to do for you, not just in the now, but as far as being one of, if not the best longevity tools that we have in our arsenal, being able to make you live not just longer but healthier.
Exactly.
If we don't understand that, then to put yourself through the uncomfortable experience that exercise can be, especially at the beginning, it's just not even worth it. So understanding that by doing exercise is medicine. I mean, we have plenty of pharmaceuticals, we have plenty of drugs. I have no problems with those. Absolutely, they're necessary in a lot of cases, but man, exercise is one of the best medicines that we have. There's almost no downsides to it, almost no side effects other than a little bit of soreness, unless you do it absolutely wrong. And we have phenomenal benefits. You get extremely great reductions in risk of cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke. You get reductions in risks of diabetes, which is one of the biggest, diseases that we're facing now that just absolutely wrecks people's lives. It reduces risk of cancer. I even looked at it and studied it in its use for treatment of mental health, depression in particular, and found that it was equally effective to SSRIs, things like Prozac and Zoloft in treating depression. And so 1,000,001 different benefits. And it doesn't actually require all that much. So for starting out, what I will tell people is the biggest benefit that you are going to get from exercise, the biggest jump in benefit you will get is when you go from doing nothing to literally anything. Just do something. Go out for a brisk walk. Hop on a stationary bike. Do some body weight squats in and out of a chair. Any amount of movement is great movement. Absolutely. And like I said, the biggest benefit jump that we're going to get is when you go from nothing to just anything. Do something, and then from there it only gets better. The more that you do, we don't seem to really see much of a cap. The more that you are doing, the more benefit that you will tend to get in all of those areas.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is just doing it. Just starting.
Absolutely. And a lot of people will kind of rely on motivation to get them started. Well, motivation's fine. I have no problem with motivation. If you want to go out and listen to some inspiration podcasts or some motivational speakers that really kind of get you going for that motivation, love that. Great. If that's what you need to get you started. But kind of coming back to something that you said, one of the big things for me is that discipline of hey, because the motivations that runs out. In my experience, that's going to run out after about week 4 to 6. And so from there, you need to kick it into a discipline. It's yes, this is not fun. Yes, life is going to get in the way, but this is so important to me because of all of this, because of X, Y, Z, that I am going to make sure that I'm going to take at least 10 minutes of my time every day to dedicate towards some good physical exercise.
And I think one of the biggest things, that I challenged too was, that starting to do it is tough. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Absolutely.
But the after part of, doing a walk or doing an exercise or doing a run, that rewarding part is huge. And for me, reminding myself that rewarding part of it and how I felt after is huge. Whether that was going for a workout after and like, great, I'm starting my day off with a bang, I'm starting it off great, or whatever it is, and just feeling and seeing those results is huge too.
And you'll see those results after a pretty short period of time. So what I'll usually tell patients is, okay, I understand this is going to be uncomfortable, but give me 2 weeks. You're going to start to see benefits after even just a couple of weeks. The first couple of weeks, it's always going to be it's usually going to hurt a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. It's going to feel a little bit more awkward because you're just not used to engaging your body in that way. That's okay. That's all right. You get through that, you're going to start to notice some pretty big benefits. Now, as far as actually being able to see physical changes, I tell people, be patient with yourself. It's going to take you 6 weeks for us to start seeing some of those physical benefits. But time is going to pass one way or the other. I mean, we can sit here a year from now and we can be in the exact same spot that we're in.
Exactly.
We can be worse off, or we can just give it slow, dedicated, disciplined time, and you can be a completely different person a year from now.
Absolutely. I think that's huge is not seeing those results for 3 to 4 weeks or whatever it is, and people get discouraged about it. And I think, like we were talking about before, discipline and just staying with it and just staying consistent with it is huge for us. So, I know, you're a busy person, you're a provider, so you're working throughout the day, you're a family man, you have 2 kids, a wife. How do you fit that exercise into your busy schedule? And how is someone that would fit that exercise in a busy schedule?
Yeah, so for me, obviously with me, like you said, I do stay pretty busy with work. And then anytime that I'm outside of work and my kids are awake, because, I have 3 kids and a wife that do enjoy my time, and I enjoy spending time with them. So for me, where it's so important to me, I will usually get up, my alarm goes off at 4:50 every morning, and then I will be over at the gym, and I will get my gym time in, and I will shower there and go straight to work. Work starts at 7:30. My kids aren't even usually awake until 7:30, so I'm not missing any time with them. I work, and then I come home, and all of my time from that time on until bedtime is theirs. It's family time. Now, do I think that everyone needs to go to that extreme? No. For me, I love exercise, and I love that time, and it's exercise and recovery, and so I incorporate both of those in before I get started with my day. But for me, that is a phenomenal way to get the day started. You get that adrenaline going, you get those wonderful happy hormones rolling, and the stresses of the day don't seem as bad when you've already gotten that all out of the way.
You're awake, you're already starting moving. I think that's what I've seen for me with the reward too, is just starting the day off with a good, workout, and then going into the work day. And another thing for me is, if you do start at that early, and then you're tired by 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever it is. But I think that's good. And like the next subject I want to go into is sleep. Mm-hmm. Sleep's a huge thing for that, with us, physically and mentally as well, getting that rest. So let's talk about that. What is the importance of sleep for the physical and mental health?
Yeah, so absolutely. So when it comes to exercise, exercise is one part of the equation. We exercise to get stronger, we need to get the adaptations and things like that, but it's not necessarily the exercise alone that does that. It's the time that we're getting better, the time that our muscles are growing, the time that we're adapting, and is during recovery.
Yep.
And so if we never give ourselves the recovery time, so for example, if somebody wants to be able to grow a little bit of muscle, or just make make themselves, their muscles stronger, they lift in the gym. Fantastic, that's great. If they never sleep, then they're never giving that recovery time to their body to be able to grow that muscle. And so for me, that is something that we don't compromise on. And I also really get after this with my patients that are in school, is you do not give up sleep to study. We don't do that, because sleep, getting anything less than 6 hours, you are doing yourself a huge disservice as far as your cognitive performance, as far as even just your hormones. If you do that for long enough, for an adult male, that can push you a decade into the future on your testosterone levels by getting under 6 hours of sleep. But sleep is our time where our body can recover. It can take care of, cleaning things out, cleaning the system out. But it's also that time where, if you've been learning throughout the day, if you are trying to learn anything at all, that's where it's going to take it from that short-term memory drive and put it down into your long-term.
Exactly. So, you talked about 6 hours. Is that the 6 to 8 hours? Is that like the perfect range?
Yeah, 8 hours, obviously ideal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what we want to push for. I will tell patients, I don't accept anything less than 6.
Okay.
Anything less than 6, you are getting into some pretty bad territory as far as those long-term effects.
Okay.
So I will usually say 8 is ideal, 6 is minimum.
Okay. So what are some, I guess exercises could be one of these great habits, but what are some tips to improve those sleeping habits and kind of making sure that you get that 6 to 8 hours?
Absolutely. So our bodies love us to be boring creatures of habit. They love rhythm. And so with the bodies, we want to be able to give them a nice set schedule that they work with every day as much as is possible. So that means that you are in that bed at the same time every night. You are out of that bed at the same time every morning. And we want to give our body some cues to kind of help it know, this is my wake up time, this is my sleep time.
Exactly.
So you'll have a lot of people that will recommend, for example, sunlight exposure first thing in the morning. After you get up. Obviously for me, that's not an option because there's no sun at that time. So it's a bright light.
Yes.
And then for nighttime, we want to try to start eliminating blue light sources about an hour before bed, or at least for the minimum, or some blue light filtering lenses, some good blue light filtering lenses. Because that blue light is telling your brain it's middle of the day, it's time to go, it's time to be awake. So trying to eliminate that about an hour before bed. No eating I'll usually encourage at least 2 hours before bed, because if we still have food sitting in our gut when we're trying to sleep, then that blood is going to be in there processing food instead of being able to circulate in the brain and clear out all the chemicals that we need to get cleared out.
Absolutely.
And then we can always look into the world of supplementation a little bit. The one that I will usually recommend is magnesium. Something like a magnesium glycinate supplement before bed can be helpful for some of that muscle relaxation, getting a little bit more of a sleep quality. Trying to keep the room a little bit colder, having some kind of an ambient noise like a sound machine on in the room as well, because our brains don't really do well with pure silence. So those are some of the things that I'll usually encourage just to kind of improve somebody's sleep.
Okay. One of the things I think you talk about, and one of the things I kind of struggle with is that blue light, setting those phones away or getting away from that TV screen.
Absolutely.
and to kind of let our brain to kind of slow down to get in that rest mode is huge for us. So you talked a little bit about the eating and digesting and finishing that before your sleep. Let's talk about healthy eating habits. So I think this is one of the biggest things. You can exercise a lot, and one thing I believed a lot into, you can exercise a lot. Eating is as important, maybe even more important than that.
Yeah. And
what are some healthy foods that people can start incorporating in their diet today?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about nutrition and eating, I absolutely agree. It's one of the most important components of it. And obviously, depending on what your goals are, it's going to change a little bit about what your diet's going to look like, right? So if your goal is, for example, weight loss, you're absolutely right. You're never going to out exercise a bad diet.
Correct.
It's impossible to do. If you're trying to gain muscle and get a better physique, you have to focus on the nutrition side of things. So as far as in the world of the millions of different diets that are out there, what I will generally tell people is you're going to find claims that this diet or this diet is always going to be the best kind of diet for you. And I try to kind of stay out of that realm of recommending very, very specific diets. You should be doing carnivore diet. You should be doing paleo diet. What I will say is the standard American diet does not work. Okay. Standard American diet is a no. That one is proven to be an awful thing for us. So basically, as long as you move away from the standard American diet, all of these other diets, you are going to feel typically better on. Okay. Your body will do better on basically any other diet besides the standard American diet. But as far as some good overarching general rules to adhere to, yes, whole food diet, right? So when we're talking whole food, we want to say as little steps between when that food was grown and processed and put onto your table.
Okay.
So, the more steps that have been put in, the more things that have added in as far as preservatives and things like that, generally, the worse off we're looking at. Another truth that I will kind of die on this hill is that we don't need many refined carbohydrates in our diet.
Okay.
We have way too many in our standard American diet, and I think that is one of the biggest drivers of the chronic diseases that we treat. So, for example, type 2 diabetes, there's some genetic component to it, but as far as what really drives that one, it's refined carbohydrates. So, and when I say that, what we're talking about are things that your body easily processes into sugar, right? Okay. So everybody can kind of look and say, okay, I know what sugar looks like. I know that cake, that ice cream, I know that soda and that juice has a bunch of sugar in it. But a lot of people don't realize that our body treats a lot of other foods very, very similarly to sugar. Okay. So, for example, cold cereal. The fact that Cheerios is claiming to be almost like a health food is some of one of the biggest lies that I think I've seen, because cold cereal is just awful for blood sugars.
Yes.
Awful. It just gets processed almost instantaneously like sugar, and the same with generally all cereals. And I'll say the same thing about most breads and pastas and rice and things like that. It's not that you can never have them in the diet. It's just that we have way too much of them in our diet.
Yeah.
So where I really try to get my patients to put their emphasis when it comes to the diet is protein and produce. So protein sources, we're looking at things like meat, beans, eggs, cheese. And then, produce, obviously we're talking about vegetables and fruits. I try to emphasize a little bit more on the vegetables. But yeah, if you're looking for something sweet, go to a fruit.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a good alternative for it as well. So I think we talked a little bit about this, but I was going to see if you have any more on this. What are some common misconceptions about healthy eating?
So as far as common misconceptions with healthy eating,
like, is there something that a lot of people say to do and then, it's not as rewarding as what they think it is? Maybe, I guess it's that.
I would honestly say one of the biggest things in that realm is not so much what people are saying, but what people are not emphasizing, and that would be protein.
Okay.
I think we way underemphasize the importance of protein in our diet. We need protein to do everything.
Yes.
Every single process in our body requires protein for us to be able to run. And if it cannot get that from our diet, it will pull it from our muscles.
Yeah. Okay.
And if we are constantly having to pull from our muscles just to run in the machinery of our body, then we end up with these, weak muscles, which, when we're young, we can compensate for that just fine. But what happens when you are 60 and 70 and 80 and those, those later decades of life where now you are running on fumes, and now it's hard for you to be able to make it from your couch to the toilet because you don't have enough muscle anymore.
Exactly.
And so I would say emphasizing the importance of protein. So what I will generally say is, as just a baseline. Now, obviously, when we talk about how much protein a person should eat, it's always going to be individualized to the person.
Okay.
What I will usually say is about a half a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass.
Okay.
Lean body mass.
Okay.
So that can be a little bit difficult for somebody to calculate. If let's say somebody is has an extra 100 pounds on them, then obviously I'm not going to tell somebody to go out and eat 280 grams of protein. No, that's not doable. So we're talking about lean body mass, but and that's the buy-in.
Okay.
That is the minimum.
Minimum. Okay.
And then from there, if you are a really active person, if you're going to the gym, if you're wanting to really increase muscle, we want to be getting that closer to around a gram of protein per pound of body mass.
Okay, because that's what I've heard most of the time is gram, however you get that, meats, and one thing I do is protein shakes to kind of help me get that number.
It's easy.
It is. It's
kind of
something
easy
quick.
way to get some
Yes. So
absolutely.
Kind of, and we'll ask it a little bit later, or I think it's on my list, but what is something, is it 3 meals a day, or are we looking at 5 small meals a day, or how do we break that up?
Yeah, so kind of one of those age-old questions of, kind of what's going to be the best. And that one, people actually can have a lot more liberty than they think. You get to do what works for you, but what we will generally say is, as long as you can meet your needs for the day, it doesn't actually matter all that much. Now, there are going to be some things where it's going to make it a little. So let's say for somebody they've really struggled to be able. I mean, how many people can get in 80 grams of protein in one meal?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's doable.
Yeah, it's tough.
But it's tough.
Yeah.
And so, for strategies like intermittent fasting, I've done it before myself. I don't mind it. It's just that in that particular aspect, it has some downsides. But for weight loss, I mean, obviously, it's a great way of being able to, restrict calories fairly easily, fairly straightforward. Because if you're only eating one meal a day, you can also usually only get in so many calories in one meal.
Yeah.
So for a weight loss strategy, it works pretty well. But as far as in that protein side of things, that's the only qualm that I have with it. But other than that, really, it's you do what works for you. But again, we're always kind of trying to keep it that end goal in mind, because if you're having 5 big meals a day and you're trying to lose weight, but we're never going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're really, really good at managing and keeping your portion sizes small, 5 meals a day is fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely all right.
Okay. So, you talked a little bit about intermittent fasting, and it wasn't something I planned on bringing up, but, I think that's something unique. So when you talk about intermittent fasting, that's the period of where we're not eating.
Yes.
So I think, the peak time is, I've got to do that throughout my day. Well, that could be intermittent fasting, correct? It could be from when you eat your dinner to when you eat your breakfast.
Exactly.
So that time.
Yeah.
So are we looking at, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours?
So for most people, if they're going to be doing an intermittent fast, they're usually going to be doing something like a 16-8 split is what we refer to it as. So basically, they have an 8-hour window of their day that they are allowed to take in any calories at all.
Okay.
And then those other 16 hours, 0 calories.
Okay.
No calories, even calories that are drank. None at all.
Okay.
And obviously that kind of gets modified to the person's needs. To if they're still taking in way too many calories during that window, they may shrink it down a little bit. But in general, most people are doing something like a 16-8 split for that.
Okay.
And in general, giving our bodies a chance to experience hunger and have some time where it just gets to run on its own energy for a while and use those metabolic systems is not a bad thing. I will say it's not a bad thing to have a 12-hour window between when you had dinner and when you had breakfast the next day.
Okay.
Yeah, give your body some time to just kind of process.
And I think that's a little bit doable too when you say, well, you need to, finish that meal 2 hours before you go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you, from 8 to 8, that's doable.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's absolutely doable.
It might be something different if you're a person who wants to eat as soon as they get up. That's kind of one of my things. I take either a little bit. Some days I want it as soon as I get up. It just kind of depends.
And the great thing is you can tailor it to that. So, hey, if your biggest meals of the day are going to be, it's breakfast. So, okay, yeah, but I finish at, noon.
Exactly.
And yeah, so it's something that you can definitely tailor to your expectations or your needs. But one of the things that I love about intermittent fasting is it typically is going to cut out those evening hours of eating, which evening hours of eating and breakfast foods tend to be my areas where I tend to see people eat the worst.
Yes.
Breakfast foods in general are junk.
Yeah.
And basically anything that we eat after dinner is garbage.
Yes. Yeah.
And on top of that, the late night stuff in particular, we just ate, some of the worst stuff of our day. And now what are we going to do? Absolutely nothing. We're going to lay down and just soak in it instead of being able to go out, at least if we have breakfast, we're going to go out and we're going to move. And with that movement and that activity, we're going to open up some back doors into those muscle cells, and they're going to soak up some of that extra sugar. That late night snacking, we got no hope. You're just going to soak it.
It definitely is. Those Oreos call my name every night too. So.
Trust me, I think that's a universal struggle for most people.
All right, so with the finish of the episode, I've got, just some fun, let's do a this or that game. So I've got some, tailored to kind of what we talked about, and we might have already kind of discussed it a little bit. But this first one's pretty interesting because some people pick one or the other or say one's better than the other, but fruits or vegetables?
Ooh, so as, personal preference, of course, yeah, I'm going to pick fruit. I love myself some good fruit.
Yes.
But as far as, in general, what I tell people to aim for, vegetables, absolutely, because you're getting the vitamins in there. You're getting some great fiber, usually a more amount of a fiber and less of that natural occurring sugar. So it just tends to be great for gut microbiome, great for digestion.
Okay, because mine is fruits as well. I definitely enjoy those. We'll definitely go to fruits before I go to vegetables. So the next one, home cooked meals or meal prepping for the week?
I mean, both.
I gotta say.
So I'm lucky enough that my wife takes pretty good care of me in that realm. She does a great job of putting together some home cooked meals, and typically we'll just make some extra, and that ends up being the lunches for the next couple of days.
Okay.
In general, if it's somebody that's doing this on their own, man, I will vouch for meal prepping all the time, because man, you've cooking is a pain in the butt. Let's be honest. To do all of the work of cooking and the cleanup after cooking, it takes a lot. And so if you can do all of that work, but now you have all of your food ready for the week, fantastic. And now you've created a healthy meal plan for your week, rather than, because we're always going to have that day where, man, I'm just rushed. And so now I'm going to make a poor food choice.
Exactly.
No, you don't have to, because you've got your meal prep ready to go.
Correct. So I know the answer to this because we've talked a lot about it, but cardio or strength training?
This one. I mean, as far as for me, man, I love strength training. I love it. That's my happy place.
Yes,
I'll go in and lift all the live long day, even if I might not look like it. But as far as if we're talking about, again, my recommendation, do a mixture of both. Throw them both in there.
Combine them both.
Obviously, some of it's going to depend on your goals, but one of the recommendations I like to live by for me is I want to touch my max heart rate at least once a week. And that you're going to do that with cardio. It's not going to be with strength training. So get out and get it to where you just cannot do any more once a week. And the benefits of that are phenomenal.
No, absolutely.
Phenomenal.
Absolutely. Cardio, absolutely hate. I'm decent at it, but I absolutely hate it. Strength training is a lot more entertaining and enjoyable for sure.
Yes.
Again, I know your answer to this, but morning workouts or evening workouts?
Oh, this one I'm gonna fall in the morning workout category, because you get that great start to your day. You've got those happy hormones flowing, like we talked about. But the biggest thing for me is it removes that excuse of because if you wake up you get going, you do your day, life gets busy, life is hectic, this went wrong, that went wrong.
Exactly.
It's so easy then at the end of the day to say, I just don't have it in me.
Exactly.
I just don't have it in me. And so I'm going to skip it today.
Yeah.
And then it becomes I skip tomorrow. And then, so whereas if you get it done first thing in the morning, if you just put yourself in that discipline of, I'm going to get up, even if I'm only going to go and work out for 5 minutes, you still did it.
Exactly.
But now you've got it done, it's over with, and it's not like you have a great workout and you're just like, man, that was a big workout. Exactly. I'm just not going to go to work today.
Exactly.
No, you're still going to get all of the same other activity that you were going to get during your day, but now you also have your exercise already done and over
exactly.
with. So yeah, morning, absolutely.
So walking or running?
So surprisingly, I actually recommend more walking than running. Especially for beginners.
Yes.
If you're just getting into it, running is going to hurt.
No, absolutely.
It is going to leave you sore.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of eccentric movement that goes on with running, and it is going to leave you feeling really, really sore. And you can get some really, really great benefits with walking. Now, this is one of those areas where your body weight can actually have if you are overweight, walking has even more benefit because now with that extra weight, you are doing more activity. It's a bigger exercise for you. And so you get more benefit from it. So a nice brisk walk, especially if you can find a hill, walking uphill. Yeah. Now you can do the same thing by doing things like carrying weights or using a weighted vest to add some.
Exactly.
But yeah, doing something like that in a nice steady state, getting yourself out of breath.
Exactly.
I tend to find you're going to get great benefit from that and a lot less of the ow.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I guess it's a little bit different from that, but for cardio for me is I get bored of running, like you mentioned. So if I'm at a gym, it's the bicycle. I enjoy the bicycle. It's a different exercise. The Stairmaster, it's a different exercise.
Absolutely.
The Stairmaster, you might be moving slow, but it kicks your butt. Yes, it kicks your butt. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So and any of those are great. And running and walking, running. Yeah, like I said, it's one of the ones that I actually recommend the least often. I'll usually push people towards the walking and the cycling.
Yes.
Are some of my biggest ones. So cycling or spinning, because they're great ways of being able to get good cardio in, and with a lot less impact on those joints, a lot less soreness.
Absolutely. The next one, and I guess this would be toward the training, but consistency or intensity?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, I would say you really...
It's a mixture of both.
You need to have a little bit of both. So, because when we're talking about being able to get better, right? You can't get better if you're not being consistent.
Correct.
But you also need... stress brings about adaptation, which if we're never stressing it through increased intensity, then we're never going to get better.
Correct.
And so that's one of the reasons why I say that one time a week where you push into that that maximum heart rate, you are pushing the intensity, because when you push that intensity, that is what is the signal to your body, I need to get better.
Correct.
You're pushing the limit, and by pushing the limit, your body can now get beyond that limit.
Exactly.
So I think intensity is important, but yeah, I would say you don't have to be, 100% intensity all the time. You just need to be making sure that you're hitting some of that intensity. But as far as if you want to see the real long-term benefits, you have to have that consistency.
No, absolutely. So let's see, cheat meals or cheat snacks?
Oh. For me, I am going to definitely land on cheat meals for myself, because snack foods, I'm just not a big fan of them myself. So I'll have a cheat meal every once in a while. But I emphasize, this is a cheat meal, not a cheat day.
Exactly. Yes.
Or a cheat week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because even a cheat meal, it can put your progress, all your hard work of the week, one cheat meal, and we can hurt a lot of that progress that you make, especially if you're trying to lose weight. But I think we're human. I think our souls like to have that little bit of happiness in that cheat meal every once in a while. Totally fine. Just do it within reason.
Oh, absolutely. So to finish the episode, what is one thing you could leave our audience? What's one message you could leave our audience from today's episode? For one thing for them to stick with and stay with.
I would say the biggest thing is just food and exercise are medicine.
Absolutely.
They are the most proven and best medicines that we could possibly prescribe. Mm-hmm. It's just when we're sitting down with you, you have to remember we don't always get the time to sit down like this and have this long-term, mm-hmm. this long-form conversation with you. Mm-hmm. We do the best that we can in the time that we are given, but dive into it on your own.
Exactly.
We are in the age of the internet. There is a wealth mm-hmm. of information that you can get in podcast form online. There's a lot of misinformation too, but you can find some really, really good sources of information from some really well-qualified people.
Absolutely.
To be able to look and see and understand more of how you can make food and exercise your medicine to keep you healthy. And the more you keep healthy, hey, that makes me a happy camper.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're here to kind of pick up any other things that exercise and food can't do on their own, but man, I would love to be able to see more and more people understand and utilize mm-hmm. the beauty of food and exercise as medicine, because it really does it makes them so much happier, mm-hmm. so much healthier. They're going to live longer. They're going to live better.
Mm-hmm. And most importantly, it starts with yourself. You've got to want it too. So I think that's the biggest thing. Well, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate your insight that you gave to us, and thank you again. So stay tuned to the next episode, and we'll see you then.